Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Social Studies Professional Development Opportunity hosted by the Maine Department of Education. My name is Joe Schmidt. I'm the Social Studies Specialist. Today, we are being joined by Emma Humphries, one of the gurus at iCivics. I think she's got an official title of Executive Director of Awesomeness and all sorts of assorted other responsibilities. But they couldn't fit it on the business card. So I'll let her do her formal introduction. As I have said, full disclosure, I have worked in a formal partnership in my own personal capacity with iCivics for the past 7 years, but I'm a true believer in the work of what iCivics does and all of the resources. And I'm happy to have Emma Humphries here with us today. So Emma, I will say that the floor is all yours.
Awesome. I'm going to take that floor and share my screen and hit play. All right. Can everyone see this nice little teaching using iCivics title page? Yep. All right. I saw those thumbs up. Much obliged. Thanks, y'all, for having me. I'm coming to you live from St. Simons Island, Georgia, where I've always worked from home. Well, I was in Florida, but even then I worked from home. So that part isn't new to me right now. What is new to me is having my 2 young children home. And I know a lot of you are in the same boat. And so it's kind of funny that Joe said, like, oh, I haven't been saying no a lot, except to my kids. They hear that from me countless times a day, including like 2 seconds ago. Can I have the password? No, get out. So let me go back one slide here, because I just want to make sure, if you haven't done this already, I always encourage sort of productive, on-topic multitasking during my presentations, whether they're virtual or in person. So I would love for you to be on our site, playing around on our site during this presentation. I have some slides to sort of keep this structured and organized as I go, but then we'll jump onto the site towards the end so I can show you how to navigate to some things. But if you don't have a free teacher account, go ahead and jump on and create one. If you do have that free teacher account, just make sure you're logged in. If you don't, go ahead and create one. And here's why. You can always just jump on to iCivics.org and hit play and play our games. Your students, their parents can do the same thing. But if you want the full experience, if you want to be able to save games, if you're a teacher and you want to be able to assign them, and if you want to be able to access our wealth of free resources, over 230 lesson plans, you need that free teacher account to do so. Any teacher-facing resource is going to require that you be logged in as a teacher. So that's why I want you to do that if you haven't already. But you can do that now or later, or hopefully it's already been done. And let's dive right in. So I'm with iCivics, the educational nonprofit founded by retired Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. She was sort of concerned. She had just retired from the court. She was concerned by just an overall lack of civic knowledge in this country. And as she famously says, knowledge of our democracy is not passed down through the gene pool. You actually have to teach it to each new generation. And so she founded iCivics to support that mission. We are known for our games. Oftentimes when people ask me what I do for a living, I'll say, oh, I work for this tech company, we make games, right? And games really put us on our map, and those games are great. And we have 20 of them, but we have so much more. So what I always say is, come for the game, stay for the 230 other resources. But for the past few weeks, I haven't been saying that. I've been saying, you know, just come for the game. That's good enough. And that's because I know as we all scramble to reorient ourselves and get adjusted to this new normal, we're being inundated with all the free resources. And it's not just in the education space, it's in every facet of our life. We're being inundated with new access and free access. And that's a beautiful thing. And I love how the world is responding, but it's overwhelming. And so it's enough just to come for the games. It's enough to just come for one lesson plan. I'm going to try to give you a general sense of what we have to offer. But if you leave here today just making a free teacher account and assigning one of our games, I'll be really happy with just that one thing. So with that, when you go to iCivics.org, you are a teacher. So I always say, click teach. And now I'm having to tell parents to do the same thing. You're not a teacher, but you are now. So, or at least a supervisor of learning in the home environment. I know not to conflate parenting kids at home to homeschooling. It's different. But regardless, teach is where you're going to get to all those great resources. So once you get there, you will be in our Teach Hub. And as you scroll down, you will see all sorts of curriculum units. The first two tiles are one that gets you to all of our games. The second tile gets you to our scope and sequence. So if you want to see all the things that are iCivics in a sort of cohesive order, that scope and sequence will provide that for you. Otherwise, it's just units, curriculum units organized by topic, not unlike a table of contents in a textbook. But if you click on games, that first tile, you will get to our game page of the Teach Hub. And that's different from just hitting play and going straight to our games. So, you know, you can go to iCivics.org and you can hit play and you can just start playing our games. But if you want to assign them, and if you want to see the teacher resources that go along with them, you want to arrive at them through that Teach Hub page. So you click on Teach, you click on Games, you'll see this, you'll scroll down, you'll see all of our games listed here with a little description and how much time it would take to play that game. For elementary school, you want to look at some of those shorter gameplays, games like Immigration Nation, 15 to 30 minutes, Court Quest, which we just released like on Sunday or maybe Friday. I don't know, that game is brand new. It's been around since the beginning, but we just totally re-upgraded. I'll talk more about that later. But that's another game that would work for younger learners. Once you get up to games that are over 30 minutes, 45 minutes of gameplay, that's typically your middle high school level game. I would say that any of these games can be played by students at any age level with the right amount of scaffolding and support. You know, in a classroom space, I would recommend mixed ability pairs. At home, I would recommend sibling or family play with parents or guardians helping out with gameplay. But these are a sampling of our games. There's more than what you see here, and you can access them all through this page. I always like to just tell people, you know, again, there's so much stuff it can be overwhelming, so I like to recommend some of our great titles. So our most popular titles are the ones you see listed here. Immigration Nation is all about all the legal pathways of entering the United States, being born here, having parents who are citizens, work visas, marriage, things like that. So really fun game. We've built in some more play elements, puzzle modes, so you kind of like tool around the harbor, and it's just a really fun game that works at about any grade level. Hands down, our most popular title, I really should have it listed first, is Do I Have a Right? It's where you run your own law firm and you have clients who come in and they have some sort of grievance, and you have to determine A, if they have a right, and B, if you can help them. If you have a lawyer who specializes in the amendment, whether it's the Fourth Amendment or the First Amendment, it's really our most popular title. I can't recommend it enough. If you never play any other iCivics game, play Do I Have a Right? Win the White House, very popular, newly upgraded. Race to Ratify, our first history game. This is all about the debate over ratification of the US Constitution. So for those of you who just love to read the Federalist Papers in your free time, you're gonna love Race to Ratify. And that obviously is a joke, and that's sort of why we made that game. We were going for funding from the Library of Congress, and our chief product officer came to me and said, hey, Emma, what's like the one thing in history that's really hard to teach, but everyone has to cover it? And I was like, the debate over ratification. It's so important. It's fundamental to understanding our system of government, but like, who wants to read the Federalist Papers? So we made a video game about it. It's great. I highly recommend. And then lastly, we have a news literacy game, Newsfeed Defenders, where you're running your own fictional social media site, and you have to apply the rules of journalism to ensure that what you're posting on your site is legit. So Newsfeed Defenders, check it out. These are our most popular titles. I also want to take a second and talk about the titles that we just upgraded. So back in 2011, 2012, we started making video games. We were using the most cutting edge technology known as Flash. Well, as some of you may know, Flash is going away slowly but surely, and it will breathe its final breath sometime before the end of the calendar year. So we have been in a mad dash to upgrade all of our games to get them out of Flash and into a more modern game building platform. So that was the bad news. The good news is it has forced us to upgrade all of our games, and that's a beautiful thing. So we have other games that have been upgraded, but these are the ones that just hot off the presses. We redid Win the White House, so it reflects like the current day issues and platforms of the two major parties. when the White House, of course, teaches you about the Electoral College and what it takes to win the White House. We just upgraded Cast Your Vote. That went live just at the end of 2019. That's all about preparing to vote, the steps you have to go through to educate yourself so that when you get to the ballot box, you know who and what you're voting for. Branches of Power, this is the everything, right? This is like the kitchen sink game. This is what teaches you about the 3 branches and how they interact with each other. This is hot off the presses. I think Branches of Power went live like 2 weeks ago, the new version of it. Court Quest, just this past weekend, and Argument Wars, the new version, will be coming out, I think next month. I think we're still on track for an April release. So these are our new upgraded titles, and I'll talk a little bit more about what's included in those upgrades in just a sec. So here's Branches of Power, one of the most recent ones we just upgraded. And I'm showing you this screenshot, so I can also show you this other screenshot, right? So you see the little difference there. It looks sort of exactly the same, except one is in Spanish. And that's because as we've upgraded our games, we've also translated them into Spanish. But that's not all, right? So we know that there's a lot of English language learners in this country. The vast majority of them are native Spanish speakers. In a perfect world with unlimited resources, remember iCivics is a nonprofit, so if we were for profit and we had millions of dollars, we would of course translate these games into as many languages as possible. But we couldn't do that. We couldn't support the funding it required. To do translation right is really pricey. So we went with Spanish for obvious reasons. But then we thought, well, how do we support ELLs of other native languages and even struggling readers, students who are new to the content, you name it. So we've added all these features to all these new games. So those games that have been recently upgraded, you can play them in Spanish. There's English language voiceover. There are embedded glossaries throughout the play. So you'll be reading text and you'll see a blue bolded word. You can click on it, gives you the definition. There's also a full glossary on the sidebar you can navigate to. We have illustrated guides, like amendment guides and harbor guides, depending on whatever the game is. We have these guides that have pictures to help students understand this new content. We've built in a scaffolding tool to all these games. It's just a way to sort of take a key feature in the game and sort of simplify it in a moment to help the student not get stuck in that sort of pivotal moment. And then this last bullet is a little less relevant because these were really created for in-classroom use and we're not in the classroom right now, but we do have extension packs that have all sorts of activities in them to support learning around the game. So if you see a new iCivics game, you can rest assured that these new ELL features are embedded in there. All of our games, all of these new games, I should say, so that we still have a few older titles that haven't been upgraded yet. We'll get to them. But in the meantime, all the games that have been upgraded are available for free for download on iTunes Store and also Google Play. And this is great because if you can pre-download these, you don't need internet access to play them once they're on the tablet.
Yes.
They're not really great for iPhones. Don't recommend. That will be sort of the next generation of iCivics games will be more mobile friendly in this regard. But for now, they absolutely work on tablets. And I need to update this because I made this slide last week before we had updated Court Quest, and so now I need to show the new screen that has Court Quest on it. That's how fast things are moving right now, which is a great thing. We have an article on our site that talks about accessing our games and the different ways to do it and the preloaded devices, how to preload devices for students who don't have internet access at home. So that is that. All right, want to move on, just mention a few other resources. Actually, you know what, let me take a breath, as I just finished talking about games. So now would be a good time if anyone has questions about games or accessing games or using games, I can take a breath.
Oh, also, sorry if my mic was on before, but can students download the games using a Chromebook?
Sure can, yep. Great question. Any other questions?
Come on. Do we have any way to monitor their score or know how they're doing, or if they're actually playing it?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a couple ways you can get at that. So the one sort of most, I guess, the clearest way would be to create your account, create accounts for your students, and then actually assign them the game. And then you can see how long they played, what their final score was, all that. So that's sort of like the most sophisticated way to do it. And by the way, we do have Google Classroom integration now, so you can pull that rostering if you use Google Classroom. So that's sort of like the tech-heavy way to assign the games, make sure your kids play them, and you'll see on your teacher page exactly who played, how long, all that jazz. The other sort of simpler way is to just have them take a screenshot at the end of their gameplay of their game certificate, and that'll show you all those sorts of metrics that the games provide, things like what their score is, how long they played, what they got right, what they struggled with, those types of things. So that's, we're creating some Google slide decks right now for teachers who use Google Classroom to have their students go through the games for, we're adjusting to distance learning, essentially is what we're doing right now. And one of the slides that the students would turn in the slides, and one of them would be, they replace our little placeholder game certificate with their own game certificate. That's just one way. The problem with the game certificates is that it doesn't necessarily have their name on it. They usually have like these avatar character names, but there are some telltale signs on there, like the date that they played it and the timestamp, right? So if they just like found one online, you could bust them for that. If you have the kids who are just as crafty as Joe's kids were and really know how to hack the system, right? You'd have to pay a little bit more attention, but there are some little clues in there to ensure that it was them who did it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Any other game-related questions? Right. I'm usually good at practicing wait time. It's always a little weirder on virtual calls, but we will proceed here. So we have a lot of lesson plans, folks, and I don't want to overwhelm you. So I'll just tell you again, they're organized by unit on that Teach Hub page. We have a full middle school curriculum. If you teach 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, we cover every civics topic you can think of. If you teach high school, we're almost there. We're about halfway through developing our high school curriculum. The good news is that a lot of our high school teachers use the middle school lessons. You know, obviously, if you're teaching AP US History or AP Government, you don't want to use a 7th grade lesson plan. But if you're teaching anything that's not honors or AP or IB or Cambridge, you probably would be fine to use those middle school versions. But I always like to share, since there are so many and it's overwhelming, it's hard to know where to stop or where to start. These are the titles that really are the most popular. We know this because we see the tweets, but we also know this because we have Google Analytics and we can see which gets downloaded the most. And week after week, these are in the top 10, these 5 lesson plans that you see here. So we know they're effective. We know people like them, and they get used all the time. So they're real, and I think part of it is like the biggest bang for the buck, right? Like Congress in a flash, you can cover a lot of territory in this one lesson plan. Same thing with judicial branch in a flash. But they're just solidly built, really well written lesson plans, and that's a big part of why they're so popular. I wanted to just show you as an example. So all iCivics lesson plans, the first page is a teacher guide. It tells you like what you need and the steps. That's all great when you're in the classroom. We're not in the classroom anymore. So what you'll care more about is what comes next, which is the student-friendly reading. So this is an example of this is a middle school design lesson, Congress in a flash. This is the reading designed for a middle school lifestyle, more or less. And then here are the activities, the activity pages. Again, if we were in the classroom, you could print these out, have students do these. That's not the case anymore. So what we've been doing is, in addition to having the teacher downloads, you can download the full PDF, and that's great. But now you can also download just the student-facing PDF. So it doesn't have the teacher guide. It doesn't have the answer keys, importantly. We don't want the kids to have the answer keys. It just has the reading and the activities. And then we're also adding all of these, making them fillable PDFs. Can you guys hear me okay? I saw this thing froze up a bit. We're good? Okay. So yeah, if you see here, I have like a little yellow area, see me typing here, that was me typing. The little purple box pops up. So for those of you who are assigning if you use Google Classroom or another LMS and you want kids to be able to complete these worksheets digitally and then upload them for credit, we have these available as fillable PDFs. If you get to a lesson plan and you're like, hey, this one doesn't have a fillable PDF and I really want to use it, you can email me or you can tweet at iCivics and say, hey, I need this lesson plan, and we are going to put it top of list to convert for you. We did that on Friday. Someone begged us for branches of power, so we did it. I just asked for the census lesson plan to be upgraded to fillable PDF. We got that done right away. So if you come across a lesson plan or resource that you want to use and it's not there yet, just let us know and we will take care of that as soon as we can. We've really adjusted our production and our schedules to be as nimble and as responsive to you guys as we possibly can. And the way I describe it is everyone has had to change their plans this year, right? Like this was not in the cards for any of us. This was not our plan. So you guys have had to adjust everything. We're willing to adjust everything to meet you where you are in this really crazy time. So that's that on lesson plans. I can pause just really quick and see if there's any questions about iCivics lesson plans.
Emma, in the chat box, there's a question for any suggestion for lesson plans for 5th grade distance learning.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. It's funny, I just did a K-5 presentation late last week, so I have some things sort of fresh in my mind. So for a game, Immigration Nation, Activate, these are games that are great. Responsibility Launcher. For lesson plans, some of these same ones here, like You've Got Rights is a great lesson plan that absolutely works for 5th grade. We also have a county activity book that was designed for elementary learners, so that if you type in, like if you just Google search iCivics and counties, our county resources will come up. There's a whole activity book there for elementary students. I'll have to think on some more. If I can email you via Joe, or you can email me directly, I'd love to send you some slides I have. I have some assets that were developed specifically for 3rd, 4th, 5th grade teachers. I'd love to share those with you.
I'm dropping in the link to the Teach Local one. The first link is My County Works activity book for elementary, so it'll be in the chat box.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I'll say just as a general, a great place to look for elementary is our citizenship unit. A lot of the resources around citizenship and civic responsibility and civic duties are in that citizenship unit, and that's where a lot of the sort of the elementary friendly and topics that cover standards that are likely to be covered in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades, those are all there. For those of you who teach middle and high school, I just want to briefly mention another resource we have called Judy Quest. So sort of a play on DBQs, document-based questions. This is a tool that takes students through the process of answering a DBQ. So if DBQs are something that you have to cover, I was actually talking to a teacher the other day who was like, we were just about to get to this where I was going to introduce my kids to DBQs, and then like school got canceled. What do we do? So here's a digital tool that really, it takes students by the hand and it walks them through the process of answering a document-based question. It's really a neat tool. It's not a game, it's a digital tool. But if you want to assign this to students, they can play it in this guided mode. There's a free-form mode that's a little bit more challenging if you have advanced students, but really for at-home learning, I recommend the guided mode. These are the topics we currently have covered. So we have, this is all, by the way, funded by the Library of Congress. So these are all topics that we were inspired by us and our teachers, and also inspired by some of the collections that they have at the Library of Congress. So the National Sit-In Movement, that's our most popular one. It's also really neat because it has a video and a text and a photograph. So there's 3 different mediums of documents in that module. Founding preambles, it's all about the preambles of the Articles of Confederation, the Constitution, and the Declaration of Independence. I realize I said those out of order, but nonetheless, the Constitution's cover letter is a DBQ about George Washington's letter to Congress, sort of introducing the Constitution to them. Branching out is about the Louisiana Purchase, and we just released our women's suffrage. And it's all about how the women's suffrage movement played off of World War I and how those two major events sort of fed off each other to ultimately give us that 19th Amendment. And then over the next, I'd say over the next like 6 to 8 months, because these actually take a really long time to make, to research, to pick the documents and do the research and build the questions. These are really carefully crafted BBQs, so they take a while to make, but these are the other 4 topics we'll be covering, hopefully between now and the end of the calendar year. So there's always new stuff we're working on. And if you get our teacher emails or you follow us on Twitter or Facebook, you'll be the first to know about these things. A lot of teachers just have their go-to resources. They know that every year when they teach the Bill of Rights, they're going to use Do I Have a Right? And every year when they teach the Electoral College, they're going to have kids play Win the White House. And teachers every year use our Anatomy of the Constitution lesson plan. Like, that's awesome, right? Come back for your favorites, but we're always adding more and more stuff. I'll say one of the best compliments our organization has ever received, in my opinion, came from Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. When Justice O'Connor's health really started failing, she knew she was going to have to step away from her leadership of iCivics, of being our chairwoman of our board. And she knew what an asset it was to our organization to have a Supreme Court Justice be associated with it. So she asked Justice Sonia Sotomayor to join our board. And I was at a meeting with the Justice, and what she said about iCivics is that we're an organization that truly listens. And to me, that's the highest compliment we could possibly receive. We take that very seriously. We want to know what you need. And if we can provide it, we will. And if we can't, we're going to write a proposal and try to get funding and eventually figure out a way to get that for you. So just let us know. If you email me, I will email you right back. If you tweet at iCivics, you're going to get a response probably within 2 hours. So we really do. We're here to serve you. That's our mission. Our mission is to support civic education in America and to reach all kids, but we only do that through teachers. So you truly are our audience, and then the kids are your audience. Just some other exciting updates. A couple I've already mentioned, right? So most of our games cover civics topics, but we do have that Race to Ratify, our first history game. If you or your school district uses Clever for single sign-on, we have been integrated with Clever. We have a partnership with Nearpod. See, this is so much fun to talk about now, because usually I have to say like, oh, we have these partnerships, but you have to pay because these are for-profit companies. But right now, folks are rightly so giving free access. So all of our middle school lesson plans have been Nearpodized. So if you use Nearpod, or if you want to learn more about Nearpod, jump on there. You have free access right now, and you can access all of the Nearpod, all the iCivics lesson plans in Nearpod. If you teach AP Government, or you have a kid who's taking AP Government, or you have a friend who teaches it, or a nephew who's taking AP Government, we created a course, an online study course, to help prepare for the exam. Right now, totally free access. I think the access is free through like August. So get in there and check it out. And then, it says I need to update my slide. It is not upcoming Google Classroom integration. We are indeed integrated with Google Classroom. And if there's one thing our current situation has forced us to do, it is forcing us to get more stuff on in the Google Suite, so that teachers who use Google Classroom can more easily integrate our resources. So that's more and more coming every day. So that is that. And we have a whole page. Any of these topics, you can use Google iCivics, Google Classroom. That'll take you right to these resources on that topic. So I wanted to just end here by talking about this activity I came up with. It's not really, it's just an idea of integrating iCivics resources with something that's happening, something that's really timely. You may or may not know April 1st is April Fool's Day and my 14th wedding anniversary and Census Day. So what a great opportunity to use iCivics census materials and to get kids involved in Census 2020. I've been getting all this stuff in the mail. I still haven't done mine yet because they keep sending me stuff, and I'm afraid if I do it, then they won't send me stuff anymore. But I will, with my daughter on my lap, soon do the census because it's required by law. People might not know that, required by law. So here's the activity idea. We have a lesson plan called Get Counted. And as of this morning, there are fillable PDF versions of it. We have an infographic I'll show you in a second. So like a one-page overview of what the census is and why it matters. And then of course, the third step would be to log on and do that census as a family. So step one, iCivics Get Counted lesson plan, student reading. This is what it looks like, it's very pretty. It's brand new, by the way. We just published this like a month ago. So there's a really simple student reading. Parents might find that they learn a lot alongside their students if they read this with their kids. There's an activity. The foldable, which I was like, but we just made it digital, so you can just do the foldable as a non-foldable and just complete it. These activities here, there's two more. Again, these are all now student-facing versions of this with the fillable PDF, and students can learn about the census before looking at our awesome infographic that we just released about 2 weeks ago. So step two is to show kids the plug into power with the US Census. So this is just a one-page, pretty to look at overview of the US Census, why it matters, billions of dollars distributed based on census data each year. I just read a great article. I'm talking to kids in LA on Thursday, and I just read a great article, an op-ed about what it means for their community, like how much is at stake, how much money. So you can find this about your own states and your own communities. You know, this infographic is showing you sort of nationwide how much we're talking about, but it's really neat to look at your state or your region and see just how many dollars are on the line. Not to mention, you know, representation in Congress and electoral votes, right? This is a big deal. And then lastly, you jump on to www.mycensus2020.gov to complete your census as a family. And this is so cool, so check this out. So you go to the website, this is what it looks like. And I was like slowly typing it in. I wanted to make sure I went to the right website. And then I realized that like the US government totally has my back on this. So if you look up there under the address bar, you'll see this, an official website of the United States government. Here's how you know. And then you click on that, here's how you know, and it shows you this. And I was like, this is so cool. This is a digital internet media, news media literacy lesson right here built into the census experience. So absolutely point this out to your kids to make sure that they go to the right site, because remember, you're going to be entering some serious personal information. Not seriously personal, but personal information that you wouldn't want to just hand out readily. So it's important to know that it's secure. So that is that. And as promised, I'm going to jump out of here and go to our site. And I'm going to go straight to our new toolkit that we just developed mid last week to support this shift in, hold on one second, I have to stop share and then reshare so it'll let me share my other screen. Give me 1 second here. Joe, any new questions while I make this transition?
Emma, is there a way, you said that you can assign certain content to students through Google Classroom?
Yes.
Could you maybe just touch on that, how to go about doing that, how to assign one of the icons or assignments to a particular class or student?
Yeah, sure. That's awesome. I will. That's exactly where I'll go to after this to show how that's done. So since I'm already here, I'll just show you. This is our toolkit, and we're slowly but surely adjusting this to make it more user friendly. Right now, it's sort of all those things I just talked about. Here they are, just in one page, sort of talking to people in our new context. So our games. Here's some stuff we've written about how to respond in the current moment. We'll be sharing new resources here. This will be replaced by the end of the week with a new infographic that's all about a state of emergency, what that means. You know, why do governors and presidents, why do they issue a state of emergency? What's the point of it? What does it do? That'll teach all of that. We have other infographics if you click here. Here's some of those popular lesson plans. We also have WebQuest. I didn't even talk about WebQuest. We have WebQuest. So it's like a web-based activity where there is a topic and then there's multiple slides there's a prompt, a series of questions, and then it takes the student to outside websites to find the information, come back, fill it out. And then we just had this webinar, by the way, was Share My Lesson. We had 450 people at it. It was like broke all the records ever. And we have another one tomorrow night, and more will be added here as we go. But let's go to just iCivics.org. So I can answer that very good question about how to assign things. So here we are. Now, I need to create a sandbox account to show how to do Google Classroom, because I just got myself on Google Classroom, and I need to create some fake assignments and stuff so I can really show how this works, because I can show you how it works within iCivics, and then I can also show a little bit, I think, about Google Classroom. But so here I am, I'm logged in with my free teacher account. And because of that, this is where I can get to my classes. I think I have a fake class built in here. Yep, but if not, I can just create a class. My understanding is if you are logged in under your Google Classroom integration, this will be very intuitive. So I need to create a fake account to show all that, and I don't have that right here. But I think if you go through the motions on this, it'll walk you through it. And I know we have support pages on how to do this. I think we even have support videos. But the idea here is I can assign. Actually, I don't even have to go to this page to assign things, although I can if I want. What I can do is just go to the Teach Hub. And then let's say I want to assign a game. So I'm going to click on Game. And let's see which one. Branches of Power, since it's one of our newly assigned. So I can just go to this page if I want to. Click on View, and I can see all sorts of things, where to download it, objectives, all those sorts of things. I can download resources. So we have a game guide, and we have a fillable extension pack, right? That's the thing that the teacher asked us to make last week, and so we did. And then I can just hit Assign. And at this point, I go through the motions here of filling this out. Again, if you are signed in through Google, I think this is all going to just happen intuitively. My guess is if you know how to use Google Classroom, then this stuff is going to just be super simple from here on out. But I don't have Google Classroom set up here yet. But you can pick your due date and any additional instructions you want to give, and that's that. I'm sorry I can't show you specifically how to use Google Classroom here, but it's like I said, it's all sort of built in, so it shouldn't require too much sleuthing around. And then, if nothing else, you can always go to, where is it? Why am I not finding our? Oh, you can. Okay, you can email us at info@, and then where is our support? Joe, where is our support? I'm looking for it.
I just call you, but that's probably not what you want everybody to do, huh?
I know. No, but you can. You absolutely can. There, and I can also. When in doubt, this is what Google is for.
Emma, there is a
Zendesk.
There is a just-in-time request. Somebody wants to know if you can show a sample of the census lesson that they could turn around and use right away on Wednesday. There's something specific.
Oh, yeah. Go to Teach. Actually, I can start right here. So this is iCivics.org /toolkit. This is our school closure. So here's the get counted lesson. So if you come here, if you're logged in as a teacher, download teacher resources. So then you actually don't have to do this, because I already downloaded all this, but you would click here. So you can see the full teacher PDF right here under Get Counted. Alternatively, you can click on this, it'll unzip the file, and then here, let me go to, oh wait, that's not gonna work because I'm only sharing part of my screen. Let me stop share, and then I'm gonna reshare my whole screen. Okay. So here, download. And then you can see, so the student reading for the census activity. So it's just the 2-page student reading. You can email this to students or you can upload it to whatever learning management system you use. And then we have the activities here with the fillable PDF. So you see how these turn purple? That means you can type your answer here. And you can, same thing, upload these to any learning management system. You know, we all use different platforms, different LMSs. You know, I tell people, I'm like, if nothing else, a kid can do something and take a screenshot and email it to you. My daughter, she's in 2nd grade. She had to develop a character for a storybook, so she colored it and then put all the details of her character. And I just took a picture of it on my phone and emailed it to her teacher, who said, thanks, got it. And that was that, right? So whatever works is the name of the game right now. But you can see, and listen, if you wanted to just use this, let's say you only wanted to use this one activity, then you could just delete the other pages of the PDF, right? You don't have to use them all. So you always have that. We have started creating student versions of the PDF to make people's lives easier, but you could always just download a teacher version of it, delete out whatever pages you don't want, hit save, upload it to your LMS or email it to your kids, however you're making things work these days. So that is that. Oops. Let me see any other. Oops. All right, going back to iCivics.
Thank you, Emma.
Yeah, my pleasure, my pleasure. And actually, you know what I want to do before I forget, because I'm terrible about this, is I'm not ending right this second. I want to take all your questions and show a few more things, but here is my personal email, emma.humphries@iCivics.org. Write it down. If you email me, I will email you back. And if you're on Twitter, I have so much, for me, Twitter is 100% professional. It's 100% for connecting with teachers and other providers of resources. So we're really active on there at iCivics. I'm a Florida Gator. That's why I'm at Gator Citizen. I used to teach a civics course at the University of Florida. So that, hey, I saw that, Craig. Hey, listen, I'm a Gator who's married to a Seminole, so a Florida State Seminole. It's like, you know, it's like Michigan and Ohio State. And now I live in Bulldog territory, so my life is just torture. But anyways, no love lost. At Gator Citizen, I'm always sharing resources. Joe's really active on there. I can't recommend it enough. And if you ever email me and say, hey, do you have something for this? There's a really good chance if I don't, I'm going to know another organization that does, and I'll say, you know, I don't have anything on that, but check out Bill of Rights Institute, or check out Facing History, or check out Civics Renewal Network, and I'm going to point you right to it. Same thing for elementary, because iCivics doesn't have a ton of elementary resources yet. They're coming. I'm always sharing other great resources for elementary civics. So my #1 job is to support you so that we have kids who know how this stuff works and who know how to participate in it. So whatever that takes is what I'm going to do. But yeah, emma.humphries@iCivics.org, and I will take care of you. So is there anything else I can tell you all? Joe, I don't know if there's anything I didn't cover that you wanted me to cover. This is our site. Again, like I said, you can always just come here and hit play, and your kids can just play a game, and they can play whatever game you tell them to play, or they can play any game they want. And if they want to prove it, they can take a screenshot of their game score, their game certificate, and email that to you, or upload it to your learning management system. And that's all there is to it. It's really as simple as just you know, clicking on one of these tiles and hitting the play button.
Does anybody have any questions for Emma? Thinking about, and I'm glad she brought up this school closure toolkit. You know, they've thought about and kind of addressed that as well. Because like she said at the beginning, there's the idea like they have all these games, but there's so much more than just the games on there. So many resources that are put together to help you assist, whether you're going Google Classroom full one-to-one, whether you've got low tech, no tech stuff as well, if you need to print things out and go from there.
And I should mention that we are going to be updating this page, and we're going to organize it by teacher and by parent. As we're realizing more and more we need to be talking directly to parents. That was never in our cards, but things have changed so much. So we want to be able to support parents, but first and foremost, we want to support you. So this page, you'll see some updates to this page. It's constantly being updated with new resources, new content, but we're also going to change the layout just a little bit. Finally found our support desk, iCivics.zendesk.com. So, you know, is iCivics compatible with Google Classroom is the first thing on there. Can I use Google Sign-On to create an account? So a lot of those, any of those questions you have, they're common questions, so we've created support pages on those topics. How do I import my Google Classroom rosters? Yeah, all that, all those important topics.
I just dropped the form into the chat box. Just a quick reminder while you're thinking, if you have any last questions for Emma, if you do the form, whatever email you put in, that's where your certificate's going to get emailed. Whatever name you put on, that's what's going to be on your certificate. So make sure you put whatever information you need to put on that in today's date. And most importantly, the last question is, did you complete the webinar? You have to click yes. And if you click yes, then it will auto score you as 100 and email you the certificate. If you click no, then I can't help you. So at that point, so please click on the form and answer all that. We've got a couple of quick questions that the Department of Education is collecting in terms of what the field is doing, how the field is feeling, where people are accessing this from around the state. But again, so there's that in the chat box, and while we still have Emma here, are there any other questions? Emma, I don't know if you chatted, people did say, my son has used iCivics in his 8th grade social studies class. He thought it was fun. Thank you, Emma. Thank you so much. Emma, this was super valuable. Other last questions for Emma?